What's up, Headspaces? Vijay the brother from the Ancient Mother, very special episode. I'm with
Ta-Kaizer,
I saw to introduce it. You gotta introduce yourself.
Yeah.
Once again, the duo is fully back in effect, and you know, whenever we come through and talk together, there is a conversation that's bigger than all of us. There's a conversation that requires the community to come together. Inkundla. Yeah. So Inkundla to convene on one of the most important, if not the most important events in the SA Hip Hop calendar. Of course, the South African Hip Hop Awards, the SAHHA's 11th annual SAHHA's. It's growing.
It's growing.
It's developing. Once something hit a decade, I think it's gotten enough time for us to be able to look at how far it's gone and whether or not the visions that it was set to achieve have been achieved, are in any way making an impact to the local community. Ta-Kaizer, what's happening?
It's 11th year.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been a roller coaster, you know, with categories as Thato Saul. You remember the king of the... Yeah, that one was chopped. With Ilaruga, their themes, you remember last year's one, Amapiano versus Ilaruga, hip hop, you know.
Yeah.
So it's been a roller coaster, but as long as it's for the culture, for the culture, which is ironically the theme for this year is culture.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, hip hop is a cult.
You know, I think over the 11 years of the awards, the one main conflict that has resided in the air is, are the awards truly for hip-hop heads or are the awards for popular culture? And this is an ongoing debate. We'll post videos in the description. We've addressed this issue of there being two kinds of audience. There's an audience that consumes hip-hop through the pop culture stream, and there's an audience that consumes hip-hop as part of hip-hop in the culture. So we know that as we talk to you, some of you might just be everyday people who happen to love rap music, which is part of pop culture, but a lot of you are actually people who define themselves as hip-hop heads. That means you understand the elements, the history, and therefore for you it is not about rap music and its popularity, but it's about the culture as a whole growing. And we're talking about the culture, we're talking about the breaking, we're talking about the graffiti, we're talking about the DJing. So this has been at the bone of contention, that Abantu feel like this is not South African hip-hop awarding itself. This is South African pop culture, because rap has become a fixture in pop culture, and as a result this has been the main thing, and this is what we're here to address. Is it true? Are the SAHHAs really just an opportunity for popular rap acts to celebrate themselves and be awarded by people who want to have their good books, to be in their good books? Or do they really represent the growth of South African hip-hop in all of its facets? Are we seeing anything that develops graffiti, breaking, DJing, and all of these other elements also seen as part of the culture, and facets around the elements, entrepreneurship, knowledge of self? This is the main thing that heads feel like, ritual media, you are not for hip-hop, and ritual media feels, heads, there's something bigger in order for us to grow hip-hop as a whole that we have to really focus on, which is pop culture. So what are we seeing this year in the awards? Are we truly seeing the awards really growing hip-hop more? Or are we seeing the same tangent that heads have been complaining about, that it's just a pop culture theater and nothing speaks for who we are as heads? What do you think, Ta-Kaizer?
I would say it still lingers on the pop culture sphere. And I wanted to also to touch on something that, you know, that it wasn't on the live stream, but it was before the live stream, when Osmic was talking about the fact that let's anticipate the SAHHAs. And then someone on the comment section asked the graffiti, right? So how does one enter, to be considered for the graffiti category? And then Osmic was like, no, we can that category. It was like, because graph heads are not interested, which means, now this is me speculating, it's probably graph artists aren't actually submitting their work, because I think you have to submit for you to be actually nominated, to be considered. So he was like, you know, we can't that because graph artists show lack of interest.
Thank you for touching on that, because I feel where the issue arises with the SAHHAs is awards are ceremonies that were born traditionally as a way that record music executives come together as a kind of powerful cabal that is invisible and shadowy in the background, and they choose from the most profitable acts of the year. So if we look at the history of awards such as the Grammys and the Tonys and all of these awards that have come to become iconic with popular culture, they really arise from powerful business executives acknowledging the artists who make the most money for them.
Yes.
And the artists who make the most money are the artists who have the greatest backing with branding, with corporate media power. So a lot of the times the issue with awards has been everyday people have always felt that it's not who's the most talented and impactful that gets the awards, it's who's backed by the most powerful brands, and as a result, who do we get to see the most on media outlets. Back then it was radio and TV, now it's the incessant adverts on the internet. So I feel like the SAHHAs follow a model that is kind of counterproductive, because if the awards are going to be revolutionary and truly become a way for South African hip-hop to celebrate itself, number one, we're going to have a voting system that allows for the structures of graffiti artists, breakers, DJs to be judged and assessed by people who they accredit and respect as icons and those who laid down a lot of history. For instance, I think if it was openly announced that a person like a DJ Azul or a Ready D are part of a category to choose best DJs, DJs wouldn't complain. Yes. Because you'd see somebody who has the qualifications to understand how far DJing has gone, the evolution of DJing from turntablism to the commercial disc jockey. So I think the issue with the SAHHAs is that even in their website, and I quote,
yes,
it says, how does voting work? And now, voting is based 100% on judges' scores for the following categories, and they announce these categories. But I want to go to this process of the board and who basically is part of this voting
panel.
Exactly, this judging panel. So they talk about industry gurus. This is the only phrase that's used on the website. That the panel consists out of industry gurus who get the kind of 60% vote, and then the rest in certain categories goes to the vote. And in some categories it's just the gurus who sit and who decide amongst themselves. So I feel the first issue is these industry gurus are made to be an invisible board of people. Who are these gurus? Osmic, we're asking, we're pleading as hip-hop heads, because we feel that to be judged by a figure of people who are not openly known by practitioners and fans alike kind of reinforces the notion that perhaps these industry gurus are merely industry friends. Perhaps they're merely people around you who you feel have the influence and the corporate backing power to make the decisions that will be in their favor. So this is where the politics of SA Hip Hop Awards gets a little bit problematic. It gets there because we don't know who's voting for best lyricist. We don't know if they really have the qualifications to make that vote. So I think that's where, until that is solved, until we have a list of names that we can see that these are the people, and therefore, how do they, you know how they do it in beauty pageants? Where you'll see the judges right in front of you.
Yes.
And there'll be people who you're familiar with, and you'll kind of be able to assess if they actually have the qualifications to judge the people who are being presented in front of them. And that's how a competition or a ceremony is given credibility. Can JR judge singers? That's another issue. So I mean, it's things like that. It's where the people presented in front of us to be judges, what is their credibility? And this is the issue, is that we don't know who these industry gurus are. That's an ominous term that could mean absolutely anything, and that's the issue right there. Ta-Kaizer, your take on it?
You know, the industry gurus. Also, the other question would be, what are they gurus in? You know, because like you said, off camera, because people who were gurus in the industry actually went bankrupt when the industry shifted. The shift became to internet, because they weren't really foreseeing this future. So that's where you entered now. Other people like your Notas. Are you going to say maybe Nota is part of the, you know? Perhaps you born away. So
yeah, what determines an industry guru? Because there are industry gurus of the past who are not industry gurus today. And there are industry gurus today who were not there 5-6 years ago, because the industry is rapidly changing in its rules and in its outlets and
they may be gurus because they've only been like you said, they have also something to gain, because they've got a company, they have these artists. Let's say are the people who are running PR companies in there as gurus,
are record label executives in there, and if they are there, how are we to know, how are we to be confident that they won't vote for their artists in their label because it profits them? You see, speaking directly to ritual media, this is where, as hip-hop heads, we have our bone of contention. So I think unless this is addressed, the awards will always be carried by a cloud of distrust, disinterest, and overall dissatisfaction from hip-hop heads, and it will just be people who are interested in pop culture. It will just end up being the South African Pop Culture Awards or the South African Pop Rap Awards, because even internationally, just as the last note, one thing I'm noticing from hip-hop centered institutions or black culture centered institutions like BET, for instance, where they are trying to incorporate other aspects of hip-hop that have not been getting that much credit. I was really pleased to see battling come in the foreground, where there are battles, there are performances right in the award ceremonies that make for an inclusion of all of these different aspects of hip-hop culture. So I think in order for the heads to feel truly involved, they need to see the true inclusion and a credible assessment by people in the spaces.
Just to interject on what you're saying now. You know, when we had this episode last year, one of the organizers we clattered. But one of the things when I talked about how South African Hip Hop Awards is not reflective of what's actually happening in SA Hip Hop. So he was like, "Nah, man, you guys can't be looking at battles and we got that. We've got that sorted when it comes to Back to the City."
Now that's going to be a bit of a contradiction, because does that mean battling is not worth celebrating? Does that mean all of these things? Because what Back to the City is a moment to see the people do what they do.
Yes.
But what awards are a moment to celebrate and to be able to look back historically and say these are the people who've done it at the best level and excelled at it. So I mean, that's a bit contradictory. It's a bit contradictory. We have great battle leagues that are coming out with so many different interesting young battle rappers. We have competitions in the breaking scene where our champions being sponsored by powerful companies, South Africans going international, representing us
at this moment in New York,
at this very moment. Why is that not being covered? Breakers feel left out. We have graph artists who have been doing the most commercially and also just in the scene, dedicating their kind of preservation of street art.
I saw Falco one You think he was somewhere in Africa, Ghana or Zambia?
Exactly.
You know?
So if we clearly have greats in all of the elements of hip hop, why can't we have a council of South African hip hop elements where people who've been putting in the work are accredited and are outwardly represent the culture, and this can be the people who the heads can understand and truly verify to be the ones that can even make any kind of assessment in terms of where hip hop is concerned.
They could actually be the industry gurus.
Exactly. This is what I'm saying. And when we know who is voting and part of this process, then we can accept that it comes from people who understand the culture, because it wouldn't make sense for us to be talking about lyricist of the year and then it turns out that there's a
Rashid K
is part of the council. You know what I mean?
Yeah, bro.
These are just real things.
Anyway.
Yeah, so let's go into the categories themselves. You know, the categories have been also spicy because over the years, people feel like, why have a certain kind of category? What does it actually benefit to the growth of South African hip hop? And still these questions linger. But alas, let's go on. Where do we start, Takaizer?
Start anywhere, bro.
We can start anywhere?
Yeah.
Okay, so lyricist of the year.
Lyricist of the year. So, how many is it's Aries?
Right.
Pretty Ugly.
Right.
Tyson Sybateli.
Right.
P.O. no Zulu Maker.
Now, there was something very interesting you pointed out.
Yes.
In the lyricist of the year category.
Lyricist of the year category.
Talk to us.
Going back to their criteria.
Yes.
In order for you to be nominated, you have to have released something from the 16th of September till the 15th of September the following year. So that means from 2021 16 to the 15th of September 2022.
Right.
P.O. didn't release any project between that space of time.
Okay.
In that time frame.
Okay.
I checked. Cold Waters dropped on the 11th of March last year.
Okay.
That's his last full-length project. He only dropped, I think in March or May this year, a single.
Not a project.
So how are the lyricists? Are the lyricists not? Do they not? You know, in this criteria of theirs, do they not fit in there? Can they just take anyone? Because in that same sense, you can take up P.O. and say, why isn't Maglera on there?
I think
who dropped the verse of the year?
Unanimously.
Yeah, it's unanimous. Everyone. Yeah.
Everyone knows that this year the verse that has basically been on rotation amongst heads and everyday listeners alike is that Maglera Doe Boy's verse. So I don't get how we don't get somebody who's in the ears of everybody reviving South African hip hop lyricism.
Lyricists, yes.
Not even nominated.
Anyway, and he's been getting features left, right, and center before he even dropped his album.
But this is not an argument for Maglera.
Yeah.
It's poking out how the contradictions.
Yeah, the contradictions
in the very same criteria that were given. So I mean, again, Ritual Media, talk to us. We're trying to understand how do you eventually get to certain decisions if it seems like it now is contradicting your very own principles and criteria that you use. So you're kind of losing us. As hip hop heads, we personally feel this is a free-for-all where people get to choose who they want based on whatever secret preferences we might not be privy to know.
Okay, one last, because we have to prediction. Who do you think is gonna get it? Oh, okay. Who do you think deserves it?
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, again, I'm going to look at impact. I'm going to look at authenticity, and I'm going to look at a general lyrical ferocity that's been displayed by the artist. And I think for me it would basically be a tie between, you know, either Zulu Mega or Pretty Ugly. If any of those people get it, I think I would be satisfied, because the projects that they dropped, the verses that they did, had a lot of people talking. The albums that they did were conceptualized around lyricism.
Yes.
These are lyricists. These are people whose music caters to those who want to listen to those bars. And I think if you look at other nominees there, such as your Aries and your Tyson Sybateli, these are artists who are just generally pop culture savvy, and they happen to have lyrics that are reflective and structurally intended in certain kind of tracks.
Certain kind of tracks, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
I also got Pretty Ugly, Between Pretty Ugly and Zulu Maker. But interesting fact, someone said lyricist of the year is tailor-made for Aries.
I don't know, that's starting to sound not so conspiracy anymore, because as we've seen in the past,
in the past it's always been
going back to the overall criteria, if the industry gurus who kind of play into who wins this thing, is it judged by virtue of trend? Because we addressed, I will post links in the description, in episodes that talk about how do we measure real effect and how do we measure real power in SA hip hop. Is trending really impact? And I feel like we have this very same confusion in the context of the nomination process, where
because lyricist of the year should be about lyricism, not necessarily who's the more famous lyricist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this is a contentious thing, because it feels like the measure of our excellence is judged according to popularity.
Yes.
And popularity is simply who has the means to be able to be seen the most, heard the most, and that's not mainly because of their talent. It's mainly because of the companies that they're backed by. So we know that if lyricist of the year is going to be based on who are the rappers that we've seen and heard the most, it doesn't reflect the true kind of effect from the people who appreciate lyricism as a whole. That's why I'm like, let's go to votes. Let the people vote for who they love.
Okay.
Right.
Next one.
The next one is an interesting one. I want us to really attend to the ones that kind of have
the talking points.
The talking points. So, other than lyricist of the year, let's talk about this category of best male and female. Let's start with the best female. Best female nominees for this year: Gigi Lamayne, Indigo Stella, Money Badu,
Trusted
SLK, and XSC Legacy. Right.
Yeah.
So, you got anything to say?
No. I think I talked on it because we have the same. We have the same. So just say.
Right. Again.
Yes.
It's kind of going to be without repeating ourselves. How do you measure the most impactful female?
Yes.
And is that going to be based on what this artist has done for women in hip-hop in general? Is it going to be based on which female rapper was the most active? For that fact, if it was up to me, I would eradicate a gendered category.
Yes.
Rappers are rappers are rappers. And in this and I don't understand why we even have to separate them according to gender. Because if we understand the politics of how patriarchy works, but ultimately giving token awards to women just because they're there in a world where they're set up not to be, does nothing for the actual growth of women themselves. I think it's in abolishing this kind of gendered stereotypes and allowing the room to be open for us to say, if a woman is there, she's a rapper just like all the other rappers.
Yeah.
So if Gigi Lamayne is rapping, she's legible for best rapper.
Yes.
Rapper
so Gigi Lamayne is a rapper.
You know what I mean?
So there's no need we female rapper.
This is
a special.
This is what I feel, and I think let's play according to
what's
what's been established.
Yeah.
Let's gender and let's say best female
and best male.
How is it?
Yes.
That in the best female category, we do not have the one woman rapper who has been trailblazing in a space that was previously seen to not be lucrative. Because if you look at most of these females, they play to the male sexual gaze.
Yes.
It's that typical Lil Kim, Nicki Minaj trope, and even if when it's not that overt, they play to the eye of sexuality. Now we have a female rapper in South Africa who's done none of that. A female rapper who said, I'm a rapper and I'm going to present myself as such. My femininity happens to be a part of my package, but the direct prominent aspect about who I am is about the skill, the narrative, and the individual story. Zulu Meka, he is undoubtedly a rapper who has, one, made other rappers start to get hot in the heels, and just generally, because she's a woman, has started a conversation around the lyricist in the lyricism around femininity and how rappers are rappers.
Yes.
You know, and so to not have Zulu Mega in the category
for best female
at all is just one of the things that bothers me.
And like you said, she categorizes herself as a female. She identifies herself as a female.
Because okay, if we're going to go into LGBT politics, Zulu Mega is lesbian, but she is a lesbian woman.
Yes.
This is something she's openly said. If you understand and have been following her story and her music, that is her pronoun. This is who she is. Mandi Sanduna is an artist who presents herself and wants to be relayed to as a woman. This is how she feels. This is how she defines herself. So if we're going to use these categories, then how on earth do we not have Zulu Meka in there?
And ironically have her on the best lyricist.
It's exactly.
Yeah.
So you acknowledge her rapping, and yet...
But you don't acknowledge her...
So I'm starting to again, what's the criteria for best?
And my only question is, I don't even want to dwell on it. How can Gigi Lamayne be nominated when she dropped the worst album this year?
We reviewed it, links in the description.
Yes.
And our contention with Gigi Lamayne's album is basically a continuation of that same sexuality trope with no real new ideas, inspirations, and even narratives that speak to what women are going through right now and just people are going to in general. So I think a lot of these awards are token awards because there are women who are doing it at certain levels, again, because they're attached to certain brands and labels. These women we see in the category right now are simply the most popular women in the space. And again, it feels like most of these categories are popularity contests.
You know, and I don't want to dwell. Yeah, let's go to the next one.
Let's go to best male.
Best male.
Best male. Lucas Raps, Maglera Doe Boy, Thato Saul, Tyson Sybateli once again, and Zoocie Coke Dope. What do you think about these?
Best males. Bone on contention here, best male. But then again, Lucas Raps.
Yeah. Okay.
Lucas Raps. This is a guy who dropped an album last year,
right?
And it was lukewarm. People didn't, even the general public were like, meh, it's meh. And then this year he re-released it with a lot of assisted, like say, collaboration on Nasty C,
right.
AKA, you know, and then you know, I don't know, does that warrant a nomination?
I think it goes back to popularity versus genuine impact. The people we hear and see the most are not always the people we acknowledge and feel deeply in our lives the most musically and artistically. And I think this is going to be a running stream throughout these categories, that there are artists who obviously, when you play at the highest level, it's because you're connected to some of the most powerful brands and corporate entities. Nonetheless, if the art in itself isn't something people are resonating with beyond you being in our faces constantly, then if we truly had polls and assessments which were based on people's feelings and not so much the popularity at the end of the day, then we're going to see how a lot of popularity is simply how labels and brands farm for people to become lured into certain contexts by associating it with brands. So how when a certain artist is part of a certain sneaker company or alcohol company, they get to have shows that are more often because they're sponsored by those kind of brands. So as a result, they get to be the artists people are exposed to the most, and as a result, their music gets to be the one that people are familiar with the most. But I think if you gave people the choice to choose whether what they hear the most or what really gets to their heart is what matters to them, you'd see that a lot of times the songs we hear the most aren't always the most impactful songs. And I think in hip-hop we should really understand that, because our culture has come from phases where we were not on television, we were not on the big media scopes, but when we had these publications and certain entities which were zooming into what was happening in the culture and the groundworks, there were certain artists who were recognized organically because of their impact amongst heads as a whole. So I think, again, let's address this popularity versus real impact, because from what we see in the nominees, it feels like Ritual Media feels that the most popular artists are, as a result, the most impactful artists.
Yes.
And I question that. And I don't think that's the case. And that's why I'm saying open the floodgates for people to vote in all categories, and you'll start seeing a dissonance between popularity and impact.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, if we have to work according to these standards, who do you think gets it?
Best male.
Yeah.
Ooh. You know, three names here stand out.
Right.
Maglera, Thato Saul, no Zoocie.
Yeah.
They do stand out. Zoocie as a producer, and that Anxiety album was like sublime. Thato Saul, his album also was, and
shout out to Thato Saul.
Thato Saul, yeah, and his collaboration with Speaking for the Streets, Maglera. What can I say about Maglera?
Another artist speaking for the streets, and both of them doing it in a way that's commercially viable. So
yeah,
definitely these are artists who exemplify Lendon Tetangayo of they might be backed by powerful entities, but their music speaks culturally to a lot of what is going on. And as a result, if you were to ask people who's the artist they love, you'd find that those names are amongst the most popular names in the streets, around people, in their everyday experiences, because music goes beyond the club and the phone. It's the kind of music that goes with us everywhere we go that we can truly gauge is making the most impact. And lastly, I want to say, what does best male even mean?
Yeah, I also wanted to
like, does it mean, because if you're going to have MVPs,
isn't that the same? Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
What's the best male act overall kind of measured by?
Yeah.
You know. And I think it's really murky. I got
yeah, you know? That's why I'm like, if one of these three won, I wouldn't.
So again, here's the issue. A lot of these categories and the premise to how the voting happens, it's still unclear to us how you get to these decisions. And this is why the SAHHAs are always going to have massive distrust and dissatisfaction from South African hip-hop, because there's no clarity as to what these categories even mean. Okay. God damn it.
Next one.
Next category, another one of these interesting categories, I would say, is
MVP.
The MVP. The most valuable player. You know? AKA Big Zulu Blackie, Casper New Vest, and KO. Obviously these names are all names that have grown immensely and contributed to a lot of how SA hip hop has grown in the pop sphere. So this is one category that I feel like is more legitimate than others, because value in the capitalist context is assessed according to who's making the most money, and as a result, how much of that money gets to contribute to the growth of South African hip-hop as a whole. So I think when you talk about people like AKA who have used their popularity to not only shine attention on themselves, but to kind of make us aware of young artists that are coming up. I mean, he did a project with Costa Teach. This is somebody who has opened up the gates not only for himself but for artists around him who have that balance of lyricism and pop appeal. Big Zulu, who famously got us shaking and got SA hip hop and rap in a lot of people's ears for kind of going back to the classic battle approach, challenging rappers and saying, if you want to step to me, let's make rap exciting again. And I think a lot of people find that very gimmicky, but I think gimmicky or not, it brought attention to South African hip hop.
Yes, yes.
People again were reminded, and I say people outside of South African hip hop, everyday people, were reminded that we have rappers.
Yeah.
And these rappers rap very well. And it matters that we have rappers of our own ilk. And most importantly, Big Zulu raps in his own indigenous language.
Yes.
And I feel it's very powerful when vernac rappers are in the front line, because they speak for a decolonial project there. They speak for the fact that you can have popularity around rap, and it doesn't always have to be based on tropes that are popular overseas.
Blackie?
Talking about tropes which are popular overseas,
Yeah.
Blackie is an artist that plays into that, but he's an
Yeah.
artist of his generation,
Yeah.
and I think he's displayed enough versatility in being able to South Africanize this new wave sound that, you know, I have no problem with him being in the nominees. Plus, he definitely has been the stimulus package
Yes,
for a lot of artists. A Blackie feature almost guarantees a certain level of views and reviews online, because he's a popular act right now.
And another thing, his work ethic, the fact that he doesn't only feature on your well-known artists,
Right.
he also, the ones who are up and coming, he's accessible, because he has worked with about K-Kid, who with K-Kid, there's also this Cash, CPT.
Yeah.
These are acts that normal, like, people who are on the pop sphere don't know about.
Don't know.
Yeah.
So no.
So yeah,
thank you for mentioning that. Blackie has his ears and his hands in artists who are simply doing great work.
Yes.
Whether or not they're attached to powerful labels and corporate entities that get to give these artists the popularity feel. So shout out to Blackie for that. Casper and KO, obviously we're not going to talk about them.
Yeah,
Historical mainstays. Although, I'm going to say, going back to the criteria of 15 to 16 September to the following year on the same date, can we really say
Casper
has done anything valuable in the year, you know?
besides his boxing?
Is that value for hip hop?
It's only value for him.
Did it translate to South African hip hop garnering attention, or is it simply something that speaks to Casper's own rise in pop culture? So again, a victory for Casper is not automatically a victory for SA hip hop. In fact, a victory for any of these artists, you know, whether it be KO, Blackie, or Big Zulu, is not automatically a victory for it. It's how they use that victory to be able to bring attention to the general culture. So I don't think Casper's publicity program of boxing with whoever's there brings attention on South African hip hop. Him and Pretty Ugly dueled it out recently, but I think all that brought attention to is issues around masculinity and kind of just these surface level things about Kubano, Kababani, or Kandabani. So again, do these things develop South African hip hop?
What would you give it to though?
Eish, Yazi. It's a tricky one, but ultimately I would have to say, for the reasons that you mentioned, Black is young.
Yes.
And a lot of young people don't think about broadening the scope of artists beyond what pop culture is doing. So Black is using his fame to be able to tap people into the talent that exists right now. Blackie is doing something internationally trendy, but he's also finding room to interpret it in South African ways. So I want to give up a big ups to Blackie for being a young artist who understands how to grow the culture as a whole beyond his generation and beyond tropes and trends and popularity. I think that's what I'd give it to.
Are you? No argument then.
Also, I'd understand if Big Zulu got it too.
Oh, okay.
I would. The battles this year awoke an interesting dynamic in South African hip hop. It was the first time where South African hip hop was on people's minds more than piano or anything else that was happening in South African pop culture.
Okay.
So I think Big Zulu made it about rapping.
Yes.
He didn't make it just about himself. He made it about rapping, which is an element of hip hop.
Yeah.
And he made all these artists.
And you could say after that diss track, a lot of activity
Around rap.
Yeah.
I think it's what allowed for other lyricists to be able to release albums and have that kind of rap being paid close attention to.
Yes.
So shout out to Big Zulu for bringing attention to lyricism again through using battling. And I think if he got it, I would actually be very pleased with that too.
Okay. Okay. Next one.
So let's go to album of the year, right?
Yeah. Album of the year.
Album of the year is an interesting one because we do album reviews. So if you want to check out all of the latest albums that have been coming out and are still to come out in South African hip hop, please check us out. I'll be doing those album reviews every week. It's happening.
And the 4 albums there's 4 albums here that we already reviewed.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's only local raps that we didn't review. So
we gotta get to that.
We gotta get to that. Before, and he has to drop before the, before the 6th of when. Yeah. But anyway.
Anyways, yeah.
Anyway, it's Lucas Raps.
Right.
The album is 03 to the World.
Yeah.
2.0.
Diaspora by Maglera.
Thato Saul.
Which I basically proclaimed a classic.
Yes.
Don't want to leave that out. Life is Gangster by Thato Saul.
You gave it a 9 out of 10.
Another classic. Home by Tyson Sybateli, an impressive album. And Anxiety Plus by Zoocie Coke Dope, another impressive one. So really, if you've been looking at the Headspace album reviews and engaging with the albums that people on the ground really are finding the most monumental, even after the drop. Because the thing about social media and streaming is that you can have that 1-2 weeks where your album is doing great numbers because it's on everybody's attention. But I think it's what happens afterwards. I judge albums according to the impact they're able to make after the hype has died down. I judge albums according to that first month and how we're able to really see if this album is gauging in terms of ground roots, impact. And obviously there's something to be said about the first month of hype as well. When we listen to what an album is presenting and the most important themes. Anxiety Plus is an album about depression. And I don't think a lot of rappers are brave enough to address that. Tyson Sybateli's album addresses isolation and it addresses themes of what home is, and we talk about this a lot on the Headspace. Authenticity, is authenticity being local, or is authenticity understanding how to make your locality global? So Tyson Sybateli addressed a lot of these issues. Obviously, Life is Gangster by Thato Saul is one of those street narratives. We haven't had an artist speaking for the streets in a minute, and I think Pretoria has been showing us a lot of artists who are there to speak for the streets and to become mouthpieces for the hood, as well as Maglera, who's been doing that, introducing us to street themes, but also being an artist who's not afraid to play outside of the sonic scope. Lucas Raps playing safely within that commercial sphere, and I think I accuse Lucas Raps of being one of those artists who are there because they're part of a generation.
Yes.
That one
popular
is really into the popular scope of music, but I think if we were to look at the general impact that they've made beyond this niche crowd, I don't think it would be that impactful. But nonetheless, who do you think you'd give it to?
He might not like this. I'll give it to Thato Saul.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I might not like it. I actually think. I actually agree with you.
Oh, you agree?
I do.
Okay,
I think. I think, as classic of an album, Diaspora is. I do think Life is Gangster speaks more to the immediate issues.
Yes.
So if you were to say album of the year, Life is Gangster really speaks to that. I feel like honestly, Maglera Doe Boy released album of a lifetime, a decade. And I think it's one
of those that you go back to and like, yeah, we were not ready for
you. You know what I'm saying? I really think that's an album that has so much value to grow beyond the year in and of itself. So I wouldn't be mad at Maglera, definitely wouldn't be mad at Thato Saul. I could accept Tyson Sybateli, and I could expect a Zoocie Coke Dope, because again, these are artists who have proven that in the ground their name is echoing amongst the masses, and this is not just a popularity thing when it comes to them. They've done their work, they've hustled in the underground, and they're not only known amongst people because they're on TV and all around social media and all of these popular platforms, but they make music that everyday people have been able to connect with. So shout out to these artists. Going on to the next category, it would be remiss if we didn't address the producer of the year. So let's talk about a category which is forgotten a lot. We had an episode with one of the most interesting producers, Isaac Wilson, talking about the differences between production and beat making. And I think the important thing to look at is what the definition of producer means in this aspect. Right? Producer of the year, Physique, or Physique. You'll forgive me. Shout me out. Please correct me for those who are more familiar with the producer, because the work is there, but sometimes you might not be able to pronounce the names.
Her Cut the Lights.
Her Cut the Lights. Lunatic, of course, a name we're used to. Shani J. And of course, again, Zoocie Coke Dope. So again, we talk a lot about the sound scope of South African hip-hop. Who is determining how South African hip-hop is sounding? You know? And what are the principles that they're applying in that? Also, are these merely just people who are there to see how beat makers arrange, or do they themselves know how to put in the art of making the beat, aside from just being there to creatively direct where it goes? So I think in these names you've got a little bit of both. You've got names who might just be beat makers, and you've got names who are definitely beat makers slash producers. Like a Zoocie Coke Dope, who has produced for other artists' albums and overseen how projects that belong to another artist's vision are directed in terms of sound scope, and he might not always be on the boards, but he's there to put everything together. So this is the difference between for instance a Quincy Jones and say for instance a Dr. Dre. How Quincy is able to both orchestrate and play, but he takes more the role of the orchestrator, and how Dr. Dre is able to play and he also kind of takes the role of the orchestrator, but leans a lot towards playing the instrumentals. So this is a definition and a category which again you gotta assess. So who you give it to?
I'm cut here, you know. I don't know, people are saying Lunatic because, you know, I didn't know this. Like, we didn't know this. He actually on SR3, they say the one who was on there a lot. Right? Yeah.
That's powerful. That's powerful.
But hey, I love her Cut the Lights. Yo, the way he interprets boom bap. Yes. What boom bap could be. You know, the shit he did with on Mad. Oh fuck. Yes. Yeah, what he's doing with the album, I think he also did something for Zulu Maker because he's good. The way he I like, for me, like for me it's Herc for me.
Yeah, it's that being
because I love boom bap, and the way now he reinterprets it, I'm like, oh Jesus Christ, it's not that boom boom, it's, you know, within the context of what's happening
what's happening right now, kind of like what Hit Boy is doing for Nas. So I really think I'd agree with that. I wouldn't be angry with the Herc Cut the Lights, I wouldn't be angry with Lunatic, and I wouldn't be angry with Zoocie, and
even Shani who produces a lot for the Cape Town Afrikaans Cats. The way, you know, the way he, you know how people say Afrikaans Cats, you need to because the way what they rap,
yeah,
it's always abrasive, and so they need some kind of a special touch when it comes to producing.
Right, no.
Shani J, oh man.
It's interesting because now in the dynamic of producers doing the work, it's also boils down to, is this category going to be picked according to the producer that had the most hits, let's say, or the producer that kind of made an impact in a field which was formerly neglected or lost, like you mentioned Herc and his importance in kind of creating this boom bap revival. So again, the question goes back to Ritual Media. It says, are we looking at this in terms of numbers? Are we looking at this in terms of a particular kind of...
But the criteria do say impact and reach.
And reach. Those are words, right?
Yeah.
And like, it's what do those words actually mean? When we say impact, are we playing into trend? Or are we talking about things that can be identified on a grassroots level? But definitely
if it goes to their criteria, one would say, no, Zoocie is probably taking it. I don't know.
Well, let's wait and see.
Let's wait and see.
Let's wait and see. So
but I got Herc, bro.
Alright. Right? Okay.
Yeah,
so
I'm going with Herc. Okay.
Moving straight along. Now, Song
of the year.
Song of the year. Another really interesting one. In a time where not a lot of hip hop songs, not a lot of rap songs are in people's ears, I think it's
most of these songs, when I went through, like, how are they Song of the Year? But then again, you have to have these, what you call it, you have a category, so you have to have these songs. Whether they were popular, nobody's for, when they dropped, like you say, when something dropped, that time it's the hype is all there, right. But then again, after a week or two, we forgot about it. Yeah.
Yeah. When I looked at the categories, I felt like they are gauging streaming.
Okay.
And I think looking at the most streamed songs, which possibly reflects what people are listening to the most.
Yeah.
So streaming, as far as a mode of credibility goes, is something I would agree with. But there's an interesting thing about streaming is we found out about the existence of streaming farms and other methods that artists use to kind of to rig the numbers. So if the streaming game is rigged, is it one that we can fully rely on? Are we able to just easily say SAHHA has the most streams,
so
and therefore
it's the
because it's the hip hop song people are listening to the most, it gotta be Song of the Year? Maybe KO is farming a little bit, and I'm putting that hypothesis out there because I want us to think very critically about how we open the chance for these awards to be kind of rigged against the favor of what's actually going on. I think an award like this should go exclusively to the people. I think people should be given an open window to have a poll and to be able to keep on pressing their numbers, and we should be able to kind of see who's making the impact the most, because we've got songs here like Sneaky by Blackie and Aries, Kwenzekile again, Blackie featuring Madumane, Stay Soft, DJ Slick there coming in, SAHHA by KO, Shotangami by Loki featuring Blackie again. Blackie being
Blackie's all over the place.
Blackie being the quote-unquote MVP.
Yes.
Asbonge definitely there, from Major Steez featuring Casper. Never Right.
Never Right.
Ooh. Okay, let's move on. Mash Beats, La Vida Loca by Roy, Sondela by Venom, Shishiliza featuring Yams, Raspin again, Blackie, Nandoni Na, Young Chief, again featuring Blackie, and 25K. So I think either way, the Song of the Year, Blackie wins. So that says a lot about the strides he's moving for himself as an artist. But come on, man, if we're going to look at a song or songs that have been penetrating in the game, SAHHA's there, it's been doing the rounds.
Yes.
I'd also definitely we'll talk about Never Right.
Never Right.
Which the Maglera verse, which should have been the basic warrant for his lyricism. And you know, I would actually not even be mad with songs like Sondela, because these were things you saw, heard around, and people just kind of blasting. And I do think there's something to be said about that. That's why I feel like a category like this needs to be open to the public, so that we rely on more than just their views on the music videos, and the streams, because we know that because those are technology, they're prone to corruption.
Yes.
So I do think that
people buy views, people as in streams, they're stream farms.
You understand? So I do think that finding a category, a way rather, for abantu bavotele their favorite.
And it should be 100% because 60% judges or what they call gurus, and then 40% the public.
Let's leave the gurus aside here for a moment.
Last one. Okay. You know, the best international act.
Best international act.
And it seems like the guys really are just here for trending for this one. Because even when it was announced, they were like, yeah, Tetan, we know you guys are going to talk.
Yeah, you know, excuse me, there's something to be said when an organization of people who claim to be representational of SA hip-hop make those kind of remarks about the way people have been feeling about a certain category. There's a reason why this category has an undeniable sour taste in a lot of people's lips. It is because South African hip-hop awards, it doesn't resonate as to why we should have an international category if the point of the awards is to develop the continent and to shine light and celebrate and acknowledge the great things that South African hip-hop is doing. You will never find Grammys or any other MTV awards or whatever awards that are of a large international magnitude dedicating themselves to this part of the world, unless that's part of the theme. For instance, we find awards like the BET, where BET is about black excellence in general. So because they're about black excellence, they'll have that one category where they choose amongst African artists, and even there they focus on Africa. They focus on the continent, right? So why are we not focusing on our own continent and opening it up to artists in the UK and in America, when we already have a whole pop culture world premised and based on that Western mechanism right there? I think this is subtle, and I'm pointing at you, Ritual Media. It's not even subtle, it's overt colonialism at work. We speak a lot about how we can make South African hip-hop grow, and I think a lot of that is in looking at our own standards of what we consider excellent. We're still playing according to the white man's game. We're still playing according to this greater Western profitability margin. And we don't believe in our own, because Ghana, Nigeria, and South Africa are three of the largest countries in Africa that are always in the limelight when it comes to the general global atmosphere. Who are we if we do not address other African countries? If we do not go and create a Pan-African mode that says Botswana's doing a lot, Burundi's doing a lot, Kenya's doing a lot, Cameroon's doing a lot, Lesotho's doing a lot, Zimbabwe's doing a lot, that hip-hop is active in basically all parts of Africa in different ways. There's so much happening around with rap and hip-hop. There's graph, there's breaking, there's DJing in all parts of Africa. And if we're going to talk about, again, a best international act, again, why are we focusing on rappers?
And because it should actually have been, when it says act, it should include graph artists,
indeed,
breakers, from the African diaspora.
Exactly. So again, I feel like this is the ultimate nudge that shows us that over the years, over the 11-year existence, the South African Hip Hop Awards are really just summer light. They are the same thing as the Summer Awards in that they just cater to South African pop culture. Because we see it in every category. We see the most popular artists in the scopes that they're trying to identify. So tell me, what is the actual difference between the SAHHAs and the SAMAs if we really don't see any real involvement in growing and developing the hip-hop community in South Africa, because I think it speaks to one thing. They don't believe that South African hip-hop in all of its elements is profitable
commercially.
So they'd rather play according to this given scope of pop culture. They'd rather address the artists who are around and supported by the biggest brands. So I think ultimately it's not developing the culture, but as they're saying, this year's theme is culture. I think the only culture that they're really dedicating themselves to is popular culture. What do you think?
In closing, going back to what you were saying about them not feeling that the South African Landuga is not commercially,
it's not viable.
It's not
viable.
Yes, it's not viable. I feel like if the South African Hip Hop Awards had a chance to differentiate itself from other award ceremonies, because it's a hip hop, so it had to have these categories that speak to hip hop, not necessarily copying and pasting something that's from the Summers or the Grammys, you know. So yeah, man. Just to enlighten, to put more spark on what you were saying. But no, man, this guy is taught him now, you know, hip hop. I ain't smart, man.
You know what this is? It's like smelling the warm food coming from a house and knocking and asking if I may have a little bit of food, or you just come in and eat and you see an open chair there with nobody there, and instead of being welcomed in to be able to take part in this meal, you are simply given the crumbs when everybody's finished, and they say, there, this is yours, you may eat. I feel like it's really disappointing when people who come from hip-hop give hip-hop crumbs like this, because in the midst of the SAHHAs, you're only able to see certain aspects that really speak to the growth of the culture. But generally, this is just a pop culture feast, and if you're not in that warm table where the food of greater grand industry schemes is being feasted upon, you end up just eating from the crumbs. Is that what hip-hop is going to be relegated to in South Africa? The crumbs of the industry. Just because piano is popular. Is ritual media not responsible for growing the culture? I don't think maybe they are. They're an entity, so they can go wherever they want. But ultimately, I think if you say you're for the culture, then we see aspects that are playing into the pop culture, then what must we think?
I've got no other last words. I'm just, because, one last thing. I know this video is gonna generate that response, that popular response, 80. If you guys are not happy with what we're doing, then make your own awards.
Maybe we will.
Maybe we will.
Maybe we will.
Probably have to. Yeah, well, nobody's an online thing.
Maybe we should.
Yeah.
Because that's the other idea. People thinking that awards should be backed by big money.
Big money.
If awards are truly there to celebrate people, then it's not that hard for an entity that works on behalf of the people to do that. And we wouldn't be able to do these awards if you, the subscribers, didn't help us develop and grow this message of spreading South African hip-hop news as far as possible. So again, for those who want to do it, for those who feel like that it must be done in a different way, you're invited to do so. This is all for the conversation of South African hip-hop. What we're here to say is there are standards and principles that South African hip-hop is bound by, and a lot of that is we have a history, we have practitioners who have been active, and we have artists who speak for where the culture is right now, and those people are not always in the scope of what's popular, and therefore how do you then tend to that important aspect of the culture? It seems like the SAHHAs aren't doing that at all.
Okay, Ta-Kaizer lo
no, Vijay Brown, Angel Mother, all the time, every time, just about focusing on developing and growing South African hip-hop. And
obviously we didn't cover all the categories because we wanted to the important ones that we had no talking points to. So the South African Hip Hop Awards will happen what, on the 6th of December?
Yeah, I think so.
On what? Lyric Theatre?
At the Lyric Theatre.
Yeah. I think the tickets will go up on sale pretty soon. You know, you go to their website and all that, their pages and everything, the bonnet details will be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, come through guys, buy those tickets, even if it's only just to pick it outside and throw rotten tomatoes at ritual stores and say, boo! I'm just kidding. Let's support South African hip hop for the love, and this is part of the love. Critiquing, growing and engaging. Iron sharpens iron, that kind of thing, eh?
Don't forget to also, if you got something to say and say, I know Mnandi, Bona Ubanu, who should win, or anything that we've said here that you disagree, even when you agree, you know, comment.
Highlight us in the comment section.
Press the like button. Yeah, the unlike button if there's something you don't like, but also voice it out, you know.
Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yeah.
We love you.
Peace.